Every morning, when the first rays of light pierce through the darkness, when the birds begin their chorus and the world stirs from its slumber, you are granted a gift not earned, not deserved, but freely given. This gift is the gift of a new day, a fresh opportunity, a blank canvas upon which the Creator invites you to write your story. Yet, how often do we awaken and rush into the demands of the day without acknowledging the one who has granted us this new beginning? How frequently do we take for granted the very breath in our lungs, the beating of our hearts, the ability to see the rising sun? These are not mere coincidences. They are acts of divine grace. The Scriptures remind us that this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Psalm 118:24. Notice it doesn't say, "This is the day that you have made," or "This is the day that you have earned." No, it declares that this day is the Lord's doing, and we are called to rejoice and be glad in it. But how can we rejoice if we do not first acknowledge the giver of the gift? How can we be glad if we do not recognize the one who has granted us this day? It is not enough to merely exist. We must live with purpose, with gratitude, with awareness of the one who sustains us. Each morning, as you open your eyes, take a moment to thank God. Thank Him for the gift of life, for the breath in your lungs, for the strength to rise from your bed. Acknowledge His sovereignty over the day ahead, and submit your plans to His will. Recognize that without Him you can do nothing, but don't stop there. As you go about your day, continue to thank Him. Thank Him for the opportunities He provides, for the challenges that refine you, for the relationships that enrich your life. In every circumstance, find a reason to give thanks, knowing that all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to His purpose, Romans 8:28. And when the day comes to a close, before you lay your head down to rest, thank Him once more. Thank Him for the strength to endure, for the lessons learned, for the grace that has sustained you. End your day as you began it, with gratitude, with recognition of His presence, with acknowledgement of His goodness. For in doing so, you align your heart with His will. You remind yourself that you are not the center of your universe. He is. You submit your plans, your desires, your will to His, trusting that His ways are higher than your ways, and His thoughts higher than your thoughts. Isaiah 55:9. This practice of beginning and ending each day with thanksgiving transforms your perspective. It shifts your focus from self to God, from the temporal to the eternal, from the seen to the unseen. It cultivates a heart of gratitude, a spirit of humility, a life of purpose. So as you rise each morning, remember, this day is a gift from God. Thank Him for it. As you go through your day, remember, He is with you, guiding you, sustaining you. Thank Him for His presence. And as you lay down each night, remember, He has been faithful. Thank Him for His faithfulness. In doing so, you honor Him, you acknowledge His sovereignty, and you align your life with His will. And in that alignment, you find peace, purpose, and joy. Every morning is a gracious, undeserved gift, not earned by our merit, but granted by divine mercy. The very breath in your lungs is a reason to pause and give thanks. Starting and closing your day with thanksgiving transforms your heart. It is not just a habit, but a declaration of dependence on the one who sustains life. Thanking God realigns your focus from self-centeredness to God-centered living, reminding you that He is sovereign and His will is higher than yours. A thankful heart leads to a life marked by humility, submission, and deeper awareness of your purpose, living not for yourself, but for the glory of the one who gives and sustains all things. Each day you awaken is a silent testimony to grace, grace that you did not purchase, grace that you cannot demand, and grace that humbles the soul to its knees. When your eyes open, when your heart begins its rhythmic beat once more, and your lungs draw in the first breath of morning, You are experiencing an undeserved miracle. You are standing at the threshold of a day that you did not craft, a span of time you did not guarantee, a gift wrapped not in ribbons and gold, but in mercy and purpose. To consider a new day anything less than a sacred offering is to live in a lie that suggests you are owed something by the hand that created you. This deception is all too common. Men wake with alarms, not reverence. They stretch toward their phones before their knees hit the floor. The first thoughts are of tasks, burdens, profits, and deadlines, never the God who allowed them to rise. What folly it is to live as if the world turns on our will. What arrogance it is to breathe without thanksgiving, to eat without recognition, to plan without surrender. And yet, in His patience, He allows the sun to rise again, not because we deserve it, but because He is patient, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. You are not promised the next hour, let alone the next day. You do not own the breath in your chest. You do not control the beat of your heart. You are utterly dependent, whether you acknowledge it or not. Every step you take, every word you speak, every thought you form is made possible only by the sustaining power of God, and this should bring you to a place of holy trembling, not the kind of fear that paralyzes, but the kind of fear that births reverence, awe, and submission. For if the day has been given, then it has also been assigned. There is purpose behind the hours. There is intention behind the time. The world would teach you to seize the day as if it belonged to you, to take control, to chase dreams, to conquer your goals. But Scripture teaches the opposite. You are not the master of your fate. You are not the captain of your soul. You are a servant of the Most High, and the day that lies before you is not a platform for your ambition, but a stage for His glory. The question is not, what will I do today, but rather, what has He appointed for me today? The difference is everything. One leads to self-exaltation, the other to sanctification. Some will rise today in luxury, others in poverty. Some will awaken in health, others in affliction. Some will be surrounded by family, others by loneliness, and yet the day is a gift to each, not because of their circumstance, but because of its origin. It is not the quality of our day that makes it precious, but the quality of the one who gave it. In joy or sorrow, pleasure or pain, the day remains a gift because it was formed by the same hands that flung the stars into the heavens. This alone should be enough to produce thanksgiving from the depths of the heart. Consider how many did not wake today. Consider how many laid down the night before and slipped into eternity, their time on earth complete, their opportunities to repent and believe, to serve and obey, forever sealed, and here you are, alive, not because you were more righteous, not because you were more deserving, but because mercy still surrounds you like a shield. That fact alone should stir you to humility and drive you to your knees in the stillness of morning, before any task or thought or word is offered to this world. Too many people walk through life in a haze of entitlement. They believe that life is theirs to live however they please. They treat time as if it is abundant and controllable, but time is a vapor. It appears for a little while and then vanishes. What will you do with the day you've been given? Will you waste it on yourself? Will you chase fleeting pleasures? Will you walk in forgetfulness of the God who sustained your life through the night? Or will you rise with reverence? Will you begin your day by acknowledging the giver of time? Will you consecrate the day back to the one who ordained it? Some people wake to destruction. Others wake to peace. Some to loss, some to hope, but each is still awakened by the same sovereign hand, and if His mercies are new every morning, then each morning is another chance to know Him more, to walk in repentance, to cling more tightly to His word, to trust Him in deeper measure. You have been given this day not to waste, but to worship, not to consume, but to consecrate, not to exalt yourself, but to magnify His name. And if you let the day pass without recognition of His mercy, you will have squandered the greatest treasure on earth, time granted by grace. It's not the clock that gave you this hour. It's not your health, nor your discipline, nor your willpower that carried you through the night. You were sustained by the power of a God who neither slumbers nor sleeps. You rose not because your body decided to function, but because He spoke live. And you lived. That kind of truth should alter the way you view every moment. That kind of awareness should inject purpose into even the most mundane of tasks. From eating breakfast to going to work, from folding laundry to speaking with a neighbor, every moment is an opportunity to glorify the one who gave you breathe. Let the weight of that truth press upon you. Let it stir you from the spiritual slumber that numbs so many in this world. Wake up and see the miracle that today is. Wake up and realize that you are standing on borrowed time, that your plans, your dreams, your ambitions, none of them matter more than what God would will for you this day. So seek Him, ask what He would have you do, surrender the day to His will, offer yourself as a living sacrifice. Say, Lord, not my will, but yours be done. Because you are not here to build your own kingdom, you are here to serve in His. And if the day brings suffering, do not despise it, for suffering is a chisel in the hands of a loving sculptor. If the day brings joy, do not idolize it, for joy is a glimpse of eternity, a foretaste of what awaits the faithful. If the day brings silence, listen for His whisper. If it brings chaos, seek His peace, but in every moment acknowledge that this day did not arrive by accident. It was crafted, it was designed, and it was entrusted to you. You are a steward of time, and one day you will give an account, not only for your words and your actions, but for how you treated the sacred gift of each day. Begin and end with gratitude. This is not some polite sentiment or vague spiritual suggestion. It is a command written into the very structure of faithful living. It is the anchor of the soul that acknowledges the truth. You are not self-made. You are not self-sustaining. You did not wake yourself, and you will not hold yourself together until day's end. Gratitude is not just the right response. It is the only sane response to a life that exists by the mercy of another. To begin your day without gratitude is to enter a world filled with dangers, temptations, trials, and distractions with a heart unguarded. It is to step onto a battlefield without armor. It is to go to war with your flesh, the world, and the enemy without any acknowledgement of the commander who rules all. It is to declare independence when dependence is your only hope. Gratitude reorients the soul. It recalibrates the heart. It declares at the start of each day, I am not the center. I am not in control. I am not the sustainer of my own life. I am the recipient of mercy, and I will respond with thanks. How many awaken each morning with dread, with frustration, with a mind already crowded by the cares of the world before their feet ever touch the floor? The emails that need answering, the bills that need paying, the problems that await resolution, all these things rush in, drowning out the quiet whisper of grace that gave them breath again. But gratitude stills that storm. It brings order to the chaos. It silences fear and pride and entitlement. When you begin the day in gratitude, you remind yourself of what is true, that you are not alone, that you are upheld by sovereign hands, that nothing will enter your day which has not first passed through the will of a holy and good God. Gratitude at the beginning of the day is an act of faith. It does not mean that everything is easy or perfect or joyful. It means that despite what you see, despite what you fear, despite what you lack, you choose to give thanks to the one who holds all things together. You choose to believe that He is worthy of your praise regardless of your circumstances. It is the heart saying, "Though I may not see the way ahead, I trust the one who leads me. Though I may not feel strong, I thank the one who is. Though I may not understand, I rest in the truth that He does." This is not shallow optimism. This is deep, hard, won faith. But gratitude is not only for the morning. It must also be the posture of the evening, for how you end your day matters just as much as how you begin it. At the end of the day, when the noise quiets, when the activity ceases, when the distractions fade and the soul is left to itself, what will you say? Will you complain? Will you grumble? Will you list everything that went wrong, everything that didn't go your way? Or will you bow your head and say, "Thank you for sustaining me, thank you for walking with me, thank you for the grace I didn't see and the mercies I didn't deserve"? The end of the day is a sacred time. It is a time for examination, for reflection, for confession, and for thanks. It is the moment when you acknowledge that you did not make it through the day by your own strength. You may have made mistakes. You may have fallen short. You may have sinned. But if your heart is still beating, then grace has carried you, and gratitude is the only right response. Not because you earned the blessings, but because He was kind to give them. Not because the day went perfectly, but because He was perfect through it. Gratitude at night is a declaration of trust. It says, "Even in the things I do not understand, I believe you are working. Even in the struggles, I believe you are present. Even in the disappointments, I believe you are good." It shifts the focus from the temporary to the eternal, from the visible to the invisible, from the chaos of life to the constancy of His character. It is the soul exhaling, releasing the burdens of the day into the hands of the one who never sleeps, the one who neither slumbers nor grows weary. We live in a world addicted to results. We are trained to measure our days by what we produce, what we achieve, what we conquer. But the life of a disciple is not measured that way. The day is not successful because everything went as planned. The day is successful because it was lived in the presence of God, because you trusted Him, because you walked in obedience, because you clung to His word even when you didn't feel like it. Gratitude helps you see that. It lifts your eyes from the scoreboard of worldly metrics and reminds you of the deeper reality, that God is always working and His grace is always enough. There are days when everything feels like failure. When your best efforts collapse, when relationships strain, when your body weakens, when your mind is tired, on those days, gratitude is not a natural instinct. It is a supernatural discipline, but that is precisely when it is most necessary. Because gratitude in weakness is one of the greatest acts of faith. To look at a day that felt wasted and say, "Thank you," is to proclaim that your worth is not tied to your performance, that your security is not rooted in your productivity, that your identity is not based on your circumstances, but on the unchanging truth of who God is. Gratitude is a safeguard. It guards the heart against pride when things go well. It guards the heart against despair when things go poorly. It keeps you grounded in what matters. It keeps you mindful of eternity. It keeps you close to the heart of God. A thankful heart is not easily shaken because it sees everything through the lens of grace. It sees every blessing as undeserved and every trial as purposeful. It sees the hand of God in both the storm and the stillness. It does not need to understand everything because it trusts the one who does. Gratitude is not merely a polite gesture, nor is it just a good habit for positive living. It is a radical transformation of the way a person sees everything. It is the lens that clears the fog from our spiritual eyes and helps us see rightly. A grateful heart is not naive to pain or blind to suffering. It simply chooses to acknowledge that beyond what is seen, there is a reality more enduring, more purposeful, and more glorious than the circumstances surrounding us. Gratitude does not deny hardship, it puts hardship in its proper place. It does not eliminate difficulty, but it robs difficulty of its ability to dictate our attitude. Gratitude shifts the perspective from what is temporal and fading to what is eternal and certain. The natural man does not give thanks. He complains, he grumbles, he points to what is missing, what is broken, what is flawed. He measures his life by what he can touch and possess and control. He wakes up thinking about what he lacks, and he goes to bed consumed by what he has not yet accomplished. That is the way of the world, always striving, always reaching, never content. But when the Spirit of God opens a person's eyes, something remarkable happens. He begins to see that even the smallest breath is a gift, that waking up is not guaranteed, that food on the table is not earned by the strength of one's hands, but provided by the mercy of God, that relationships, opportunities, even trials, are all entrusted with divine intent. When gratitude grips the heart, the fog of entitlement is lifted. No longer does the soul believe that it is owed anything. No longer does the heart demand that life cater to its preferences. Instead, the heart bows low and says, "I am unworthy, yet I have received more than I deserve." This change in perspective leads to peace, not because life becomes easy, but because the soul learns to rest in the giver rather than the gifts. It no longer defines a good day as a day without difficulty. It defines a good day as a day lived in communion with the one who gives all things purpose. That is why gratitude is not dependent on circumstances. It does not wait for things to improve. It responds to the reality of grace, even when life feels like loss. Consider the man who walks through suffering without thanksgiving. He is crushed by it. He becomes bitter, resentful, angry. He demands an explanation. He looks at others who seem to have more and wonders why his life must be marked by pain. His perspective becomes warped, poisoned by comparison and envy. But the man who gives thanks in the midst of his suffering sees differently. He may not understand, but he trusts. He may be in pain, but he is not without purpose. He sees suffering not as the absence of God's goodness, but as an instrument of His grace. He understands that through affliction, his faith is being refined, and in his weakness, the strength of God is being revealed. This is not because he has special insight, but because gratitude has opened his eyes to a deeper reality. Gratitude teaches the heart to see the fingerprints of God in places the ungrateful heart never will. It sees His providence in the timing of a phone call, His mercy in the correction of a friend, His love in the delay of an answer to prayer. The ungrateful heart misses these things. It rushes through the day blinded by the demands of life. It seeks only what can be measured and seen and felt in the moment. But the grateful heart is trained to see through the veil of the visible. It is not fooled by the illusion that comfort equals blessing or that hardship equals abandonment. It discerns the presence of God not by the absence of difficulty, but by the abundance of grace in every situation. A grateful heart also produces humility. When a person recognizes that all he has is a gift, he stops boasting. He no longer believes he is self-made. He no longer looks down on others who have less. He no longer takes credit for what he could never achieve on his own. Gratitude dismantles pride. It uproots the lie that we are the source of our own success. It reminds us that we are creatures, not creators, stewards, not owners, that our very lives are borrowed, that every possession, every talent, every opportunity is entrusted to us by the one who has the right to give and the right to take away. Gratitude helps us hold things loosely because we understand they were never ours to cling to in the first place. When the heart shifts from entitlement to gratitude, it also becomes more patient. The soul that is thankful for what it has is not consumed by what it lacks. It can wait. It can endure. It can trust that the God who has provided this far will continue to provide. The impatient heart says, if I don't have it now, then something is wrong. The grateful heart says, if I don't have it, then perhaps it's not time, or it's not what I need. This doesn't mean the heart never desires or asks, but it means that its desires are filtered through trust, not frustration. Gratitude teaches the soul to rest in the timing of God, to believe that waiting is not wasted when the one who orchestrates time is always working for our good and His glory. Even in community, gratitude changes everything. It transforms relationships. The grateful person is not constantly critical. He does not expect perfection from others. He is not easily offended. He is quick to affirm, quick to appreciate, quick to forgive. Because he understands how much he has been forgiven, he becomes eager to extend that same grace. Gratitude softens the heart toward others. It shifts the perspective from what people fail to do to what they have already done. It sees the good and acknowledges it. It builds up rather than tearing down. It encourages rather than complains. This kind of perspective nurtures unity. It fosters love. It reflects the heart of God. On the contrary, ungratefulness breeds discord. It magnifies flaws. It remembers wrongs. It demands without appreciating. It corrodes trust. It suffocates joy. And eventually it isolates. No one wants to be around someone who never sees the good, never says thank you, never acknowledges the kindness of others. But the person who lives with gratitude becomes a light. Others are drawn to them, not because their life is easy, but because their heart is anchored. They radiate peace, humility, contentment, and joy, qualities that can't be faked or manufactured, only cultivated by a deep-rooted thankfulness toward God. Gratitude also changes how we view the past. The ungrateful person sees only regrets, mistakes, and missed opportunities. Their past becomes a weight that drags them into despair. But gratitude looks back and sees God's hand even in the failures. It sees how He redeemed, how He healed, how He carried. It sees mercy in the discipline and grace in the delays. It reframes every season, even the darkest ones, as part of a larger tapestry woven by a faithful hand. This doesn't erase pain, but it gives it purpose. It doesn't glorify sin, but it magnifies the grace that covers it. Gratitude looks back, and instead of saying, "Why did this happen?" it says, "Thank you for not leaving me there. Thank you for bringing me through." It also transforms how we view the future. The anxious heart fears what is to come. It dreads what could go wrong. It borrows trouble from tomorrow and loses peace today. But the grateful heart looks forward with trust. It says, "The God who has been faithful this far will not fail me now." It does not need to know every detail because it knows the one who holds the future. Gratitude silences fear by reminding the soul of past provision and present mercy. It builds confidence not in self, but in the unchanging nature of a good and sovereign God. All of this transformation, how we view our day, our relationships, our past, our future, flows from a simple yet profound shift in perspective. The ungrateful heart sees through the lens of self. The grateful heart sees through the lens of grace, and once that lens is placed over your eyes, you cannot go back. You begin to see beauty where you once saw boredom. You begin to see purpose where you once saw pain. You begin to see blessing where you once saw burden. You begin to live not as one grasping for more, but as one who cannot believe how much has already been given. Gratitude changes what you see, how you feel, how you respond, and ultimately, who you become. Thankfulness is not merely an emotional response to receiving something pleasant. It is a spiritual discipline, a conscious turning of the heart away from self and toward the source of all good. It is the quiet confession that all you have is from the hand of another. And when that confession becomes consistent in the life of a person, something deep begins to shift. Thankfulness does not simply decorate the life of the believer, it reshapes the entire posture of the soul. It cuts down pride at the root and plants in its place the seeds of humility, which over time yield the fruit of purpose that is fixed not on the self, but on the will of God. The proud man does not give thanks because he believes he has earned all that he has. He clutches his possessions and his achievements as though they are the rightful wages of his efforts. He says, "Look what I have built, look what I have done, look what I deserve." He may thank others when politeness demands it, but his heart is far from gratitude. It is filled with entitlement, with self-congratulation, with the illusion of independence. But the thankful man is different. He sees clearly. He understands that he is not the maker of his breath, not the sustainer of his strength, not the author of his own story. He says, "I have nothing that I did not receive." He bows low, not out of shame, but out of joyful reverence for the God who has been so patient, so generous, so kind. This humility is not weakness. It is clarity. It is freedom from the exhausting lie that you must carry everything, achieve everything, be everything. The thankful soul is free to rest, to receive, to rejoice. He does not measure his worth by his status, nor his importance by his possessions. He has found something deeper. He has found that the greatest thing in life is not to be celebrated, but to be known by the one who gives every good gift. Thankfulness leads him to this place of surrender, and in surrender he discovers purpose, not in building his own kingdom, but in joyfully serving in the kingdom of God. Humility born of thankfulness transforms not only how a person sees himself, but how he sees others. Pride views others as competition or obstacles, as those who must be impressed or outdone. But humility sees others as fellow recipients of grace. It does not boast, it does not envy, it does not compare. It rejoices with those who rejoice and weeps with those who weep, because it understands that all are in need and all stand only by grace. The thankful person does not assume superiority. He serves because he knows what he has received. He forgives because he knows how much he has been forgiven. He blesses because he remembers how much he has been blessed. This humility, far from making a person passive or indifferent, actually fuels purpose. The world teaches that you find purpose by following your own heart, chasing your own dreams, doing what makes you feel alive. But the Word teaches that you find life by laying it down. You find joy by dying to self. You find meaning not in the pursuit of greatness, but in the pursuit of faithfulness. Thankfulness makes this possible. When you are overwhelmed by what God has done for you, you want your life to be poured out in response. Not to earn favor, but because you have already received it. Not to prove your worth, but because you know you are loved. The thankful heart says, "I do not belong to myself. I belong to Him who gave me life." And from that place comes purpose that cannot be shaken. The thankful life is marked by a quiet strength. It does not chase applause, because it is content to be known by God. It does not grasp for power, because it trusts in a higher plan. It does not panic when things fall apart, because it remembers the faithfulness of the one who has always provided. This strength is not loud, not flashy, not boastful. It is resilient. It endures. It perseveres through trials with a peace that passes understanding. And it bears witness to a watching world that there is a better way to live, way not driven by self, but rooted in grace. Thankfulness also protects the heart from bitterness. Life is full of disappointments, injustices, wounds that threaten to harden the soul. But the thankful heart finds reason to rejoice even in the dark. It does not pretend the pain is not real. It does not minimize suffering, but it refuses to let suffering define the narrative. It remembers the goodness of God in the midst of the storm. It holds on to hope. It sees the evidence of mercy even in the breaking, and in doing so, it keeps the heart soft. It keeps the eyes open. It keeps the soul responsive to the leading of the Spirit. This is not natural. It is not something that arises from within us. It is a work of grace. The same grace that saves us also sustains us. And it is that grace which opens our eyes to the gifts we have taken for granted, the mercies we have ignored, the kindness that has followed us all our days. As we cultivate thankfulness, we become more aware of the hand of God in every detail. We begin to see that nothing is random, that every moment is sacred, that every encounter is an opportunity. Gratitude tunes the heart to listen. Humility makes the heart ready to obey, and purpose flows from the heart that is surrendered. In a world obsessed with self-expression, self-promotion, and self-preservation, the thankful person stands in quiet defiance. He lives not for the applause of men, but for the approval of God. He does not clamor for recognition, because he knows the one who sees in secret. He does not need to impress, because he is secure, and that security frees him to serve, to give, to risk, to go wherever he is called. Thankfulness becomes the engine that drives him forward, not with anxiety or pressure, but with joy and devotion. The tragedy is that so many miss this. They spend their lives chasing something more, something greater, something better, never realizing that what they truly need is not more, but awareness of what they already have. Thankfulness awakens the soul to the richness of grace that surrounds us. It reintroduces wonder to the weary heart. It softens the cynicism that is built up over years of disappointment. It replaces demand with delight. It teaches us to enjoy God not just for what He gives, but for who He is. As this thankfulness deepens, so does our sense of purpose. We no longer ask, "What can I get out of life?" but "What can I give with this life?" We no longer see time, talent, and treasure as possessions to be hoarded, but as resources to be invested for eternal glory. We begin to live with a sense of urgency, not because we fear missing out, but because we long to be faithful with what we've been entrusted. We begin to measure success not by how high we climb, but by how well we serve. We begin to count impact not in numbers, but in obedience. Thankfulness simplifies life. It clarifies what matters. It removes the clutter of worldly ambition and replaces it with a desire to please the one who gave us breath. It trains the heart to say, "Whatever you give, I will receive with thanks. Whatever you take, I will surrender with trust. Whatever you ask, I will do with joy." That is a powerful life, not because it is loud or impressive, but because it is anchored. It is a life that knows who it is and why it exists. A life that sees every moment as a gift and every gift as a responsibility. Even in seasons of silence, thankfulness speaks. When answers do not come, when the way is unclear, when the doors remain closed, the thankful soul still lifts its voice, not because it understands, but because it trusts, not because it feels strong, but because it knows who holds all strength. This kind of thankfulness is not fragile. It does not collapse when life gets hard. It stands firm because it is rooted in something deeper than circumstance. It is anchored in the unchanging character of God. This is the kind of life that brings glory to God, not a life of ease or fame or applause, but a life of steady, humble, grateful obedience, a life that begins and ends with thankfulness, a life that recognizes everything is from Him, through Him, and for Him, a life that makes much of Christ and little of self, a life poured out as a living sacrifice, a life that has found its purpose in the presence of God and the privilege of serving Him with everything it has been given,